Cole?
Not too bad. Yourself?
Yeah, not bad. A bit of a hectic week, but you know those things can't be stopped. So from the last podcast, Lucia and Shah,
Yeah.
how's the reaction been?
No, it's been good to be fair. They've been really good to be fair. I've had a bit of banter about the outtakes that no one's seen yet. So
No one will see.
You know, so all they can see is what's put in front of them. But no, it was good. It was good getting their views on a few things.
First ever pod as well. How's the reaction been for you?
Yeah, it's been a bit crazy because we started a pod and obviously I went off Twitter for a few days. So, you know, I picked a good timing for that. But I had to just have a little bit of break from socials, spend some time with the family and yeah, back on the socials now.
Obviously, we've had the bad week of snow as well.
Good week of snow. Good week of
Bad
snow.
week, whichever way you look at it.
Sledges, hills, social media's not needed for that. I didn't even need nothing like that. Was a point in itself. Spent about 5 hours looking for sledges. So,
I was there. You almost offered 20 quid to someone.
Yeah, I tried.
Anyone that's listening to this pod, if you've got sledges now, it might take them at a discount rate.
No, it was good, and it was a different experience. Having Lucia and Sean on was great.
You've never met either of them before, have you?
No, that's a good thing. I think that's what we're trying to build with this kind of pod is getting people on, not necessarily that we know.
We've got to know. You've got to know. I've got.
Yeah, well, not necessarily that we know in depth about their stories. You know.
Yeah, anyone that's listening now, if you're someone in the game, you know, mostly female game, but obviously just in the walk of life of the game, if you feel like you've got something to say, this is a pod for you, really. It's about being unorthodox.
Yeah, just jump on. Like, obviously, we're looking for more people that have either worked. So there's past tense. If you've worked in the female game, or you are a female in the game, it's more. I want to get them people.
What about if someone wants to get into the game?
If they want to get into the game and they want to jump on and ask me a load of questions and...
Well, it's not about that. It's about probably if someone's listening now and they want to get onto the pod and they're interested in the women's game and they want to come on and talk about themselves and about their point and what interests them about the women's game, because everyone's got a view.
Yeah, well, everyone's that's
so yeah, it's been a good week. The first pod was in the bag. I'm hearing that you took an L from Lucia.
I'm hearing I took it out everywhere. I'm just saying.
Do you know what? For just to big myself up as well. I mean, I'm not getting any. Apart from today, I'm not getting any backlash. So I made myself look good. Apart from the nutmeg you gave me, but let's be honest, I'll let you do it.
I'm taking L's every week by the looks of it,
mate. Even today. So yeah, just let's go on to Lee. Lee Hayes today.
So yeah, Lee Hayes, great bloke. I worked with him at Sussex, and he was able to get on, which was great. The fact that he was able to get him on, he's got a great backstory. Great, worked in loads of experience. The amount of experience he's got trumps me in the women's game. So it's great to have someone with him on there. He's been there, done that. Hasn't got winners' medals, should we say, but has won things.
And obviously, the challenge at the end. You set the challenge today as well.
Yeah,
so.
Unfortunately, Hazy come with this big excuse of him being injured, so couldn't set something up.
So when you do look at this on YouTube, remember that it's Cole's challenge. But I had to introduce it.
We had to think on our toes, and the only thing the easiest thing to run with is crossbar. So we had to hit that up, and had the wrong boots on because my boots were left at home. I had to get the boots out of my car.
Carl, Mr. Excuses.
The boots out of my car, the boots from home, and I couldn't just drive home. So, yeah.
And obviously, I'm not giving it away, but obviously during the pod it is sort of given away. But how are you feeling going forward with challenges? Are you going to be involved?
I don't know if I like my idea anymore.
now it's part of the pod.
I don't know if I like my
obviously,
idea.
we're gonna touch on. We've had Lee. He's been a great guest today. So for anyone who's listening, he touches on the clubs he's been at. He touches on. He was at a point in the game where Arsenal were the powerhouse, and I think a lot of people will still remember that Arsenal were the biggest powerhouse in England for a long time.
They've been Charlton. We're going loggerheads, but yes, 100%. Arsenal women, there's no one that can touch that squad when Kelly Smith, Rachel Yankee, or whatever were playing about. It was a different kettle of fish. You couldn't touch them, and he was lucky enough to be involved with that club for a short spell, and obviously he's been at the heights of the game where he's had 3,500 fans watching the team he's coaching, at the Amex. So he's been there, and he's doing well for himself, and I've got loads of time for him. And it was great just to have him on, to be honest.
So that's what today's about. So this is Carl Michael just introducing it today. This is Unorthodox, the Unorthodox podcast. Obviously, if you're watching it on YouTube, fantastic, and you get to see the challenges at the end. But yeah, have a look at Lee, and we hope you enjoy, and we'll hopefully see you next time when we release the next pod. Afternoon, lads.
How's it going, Lee?
Well, good, mate. You?
Not too bad. It's been a while. It's been long overdue, to be honest.
Definitely. Yeah, a long time. It's probably a blessing, mate. Absence doesn't make the heart grow fonder, mate.
Yeah. It's thanks for coming on, first of all. Thanks for agreeing to jump on the pod. I know it's a little bit different. I know you don't usually get involved with these sort of things, so to get you on is a bit of a coup for me, to be fair.
You might have more than 1,500 followers.
Mate, I'm face for radio, mate. My opinion is
damn, we're doing both. We're doing it all here for you today. Pull out the stops.
So, just talk to me a little bit about your journey and how you got into the game, really. I know you're
before we even do that, how do you know him, Carl?
How do I know him? Me and Lee got into, well, it's through Sussex. I got the Sussex gig, and Lee was
still got that jacket,
Lee was part of that gig.
Could have worn mine. Could be like, oh, look at us, initials on.
I got initials, I wasn't that special.
That's why you had to get that one out today.
But yeah, we was involved in Sussex, and Lee was involved with the past projects, and I was still building the team. Then they mentioned Lee was about, and I was like, yeah, look, I'll have a chat with him. I wanted to try and build my own thing. After chatting with him, I was like, yeah, come down. And it kind of just kicked off from there, and we built quite a good relationship in a short space of time, I'd say.
Yeah.
I think it's with anyone, like, I value his opinion when he was telling me stuff. He even said to me, I remember you saying to me one game, he's like, I'll give you opinions and I'll step back. It's up to you if you use them or not.
Yeah, not a problem. You got to make decisions, mate.
And I was like, you know what, I can work with someone like that, and he just let me get on with it. And I listened to him most of the time. He took one game, won it, we got to a final.
3-0, don't worry about that, mate.
What is it about you giving games to people when they win it?
Give people chances.
First this guy, then, and, you know.
I give people chances, you know. But Hazy's been in the game a lot longer than me. He's a lot more experienced than me. And to be fair, as much as he probably wasn't saying a lot, he was saying enough for me to learn. I was always learning when he said stuff to me.
So you got 10 years experience on him? Because he's 28 and you're...
I shaved last night, so I'm 32.
Funny enough, I did that to myself.
Couldn't have a trim because of COVID, but...
It's like home barbers.
So how did you get involved in kind of the game first of all, and what was your first steps into the female game? Because I know you've been involved in the women's game for a bit.
Yeah, probably. So I was no good at playing. Like generally, that jokes aside.
That makes three of us.
Well, I don't know. I won't cross my chance. So how bad does that mean?
Oh, he's letting it out. I'm joking.
No, do you know what? I was always a player that I'd always see things, and I'd read the game really, really well. I was slow. I was a centre midfielder. I could never run much, but like I'd always have engines around me, which was lovely. But like, I'd always see stuff that no one else would see. I'd be like, like the Berbatovs, the Sheringham's, all those players that had that vision.
And they were strikers, mate.
Yeah, no. They were kind of deep lying midfielders, but I could see stuff. So like when I went as coach, I just enjoyed the game, and I've just loved football ever since I was a kid. Kind of when I first came back to England, when I was about 8 or 9 or whatever it was. But I just enjoyed coaching. I just didn't know what avenue to get into. And I knew a few people around local town in Buckingham, and then met a lady called Patricia Hill. Can't remember her name. Lovely lady, and. She said, "Oh, we did a girl session. Do you want to come down?" I went down. There was this guy, was Oxford United guy there. He's now their physio, a doctor at Oxford United first team. And he said, he's taking a session. Really, really good coach. And I just got involved with him and stuff like that. And then there was like a new girls team coming. So there's a 14s team. And Randy bumped into a lad called Pete, who later now is one of my best mates. His daughter was playing, but he couldn't coach, so he used to wear the big sheepskin jacket and smoke a cigar, and I'd do all the coaching.
Oh, that's right.
He never did that. He did that. That was in the 2000s. But he needed a coach, so I just then coached with him and just his daughter's team. And they were like, one of those, the first game we played, it was like 16-1 we lost or something ridiculous like that. And then the old stories of like by the end of the season we lost, I think it's 4-2 or 2-1 we lost to the same team. So like, that was where you built your love for it, because it was all you could have an impact on people's lives and
Yeah,
change
and
players,
watching
improve
the
players.
progression.
And and it just became that a grassroots club, massive team, Mortonville, back in my hometown. I played for them as well.
Did you?
But I always wanted to give something back to them.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of like, I enjoy that. So I ended up spending about 3 years there, to be fair. I went on a committee, joined as a development officer.
Was that the men's side, was it?
No, the boys and the girls. It was only a junior club. Only 16, only under 16s, but they had 28 teams or something like that.
But there's a few teams around here that are like that.
Yeah.
Grey Lions. And
There's some massive clubs, but I just like to give stuff. But I just generally want to give something back to the club.
Yeah.
They've given me from probably about under 10s to under 16s, and I've been not missed a training session, I've missed games. I mean, I was one of those kind of stalwart players and such. But I just enjoyed it, and that just got me into the female game. And to be fair, mate, I've coached boys and girls. I wrote down who I'd coached, and I've coached basically from under 9s to seniors, both man and female. So I've stayed within the female game, but not kind of like had a little dip within a boys' academy, but not steered away from the female game. So I just enjoy it. It's kind of like they're sponges, aren't they? They're kind of like
100%.
and they like detail, and I like, especially watching the game now.
Yeah.
I think I've got quite a lot of detail to give, so like they enjoy that. So that's why I think the female game is more receptive, as potentially to male coaches. But
I agree with you there. That's with me. When I coach, I like to give quite a bit of detail, and I've realised that there's a way to do it with younger ones, but the way I do it is more suited to kind of older. But I've realised younger girls actually take in and understand information the same way you'd probably talk to an older boy.
Yeah.
So you can give the information. It's massive. So with that team that he's involved in, that was your kind of introduction into the women's game that you kind of stayed in. What was your kind of first role in the proper role in the female women's game?
Northampton Town, Centre of Excellence, under 10s girls team. It was, I'd done my level 1, met someone on my level 1, she was at Northampton, and then randomly did my level 2, and that became the qualification needed at the time to get into the professional club to work wherever it was. And then I just messaged her and said to her, like, what's the crack? And she got me a contact with one of the guys who's the kind of centre director, and I met him at a park. It was really random. We're doing a pre-season training, and then all of a sudden now we're fast forward into the season. It was like you were training next to the pitch, 6 fields. It was like a training pitch next to it. And took the under 10s with a lad called Ed, who to this day is probably like one of the top coaches I've known. He just taught me little things that I'd always never think about. So like, I'd struggle in a session because you always get scared of putting a session on in front of someone who's better than you, who you perceive to be better than you. And you're always like, I'm worried. And he'd be like, I don't know what to do. He'd be like, Hazy, just take a ball out or put a defender in. And you're like, what? He goes, just watch, put a defender in, and magic happens. And you're like, how have I not seen that? But you're learning the game, and then did my B licence and so on. So but no, I spent 4 years at Northampton. But it was good. That was probably the first.
So you've done your B licence whilst you was at Northampton?
Did I do my B licence at Northampton? Yes, I did. Yeah. 2000. I did it in 2009. Then I didn't do my assessment. Yeah, in 2011, I think.
2011. And from there, obviously, that's all up in Buckinghamshire way. You moved down to whereabouts? Sussex, was it?
Sussex, Brighton, yeah.
Brighton.
Moved down, I'd hate to have to say it, but I moved down for love.
Look at the stress in the face.
It's not love anymore, unfortunately. That love fairy tale unfortunately finished. But moved down to Sussex, spent a good 8-9 years down there. Very fortunately got in contact with someone at Brighton Hove Albion, and then had the weirdest job interview. I turned up to it was the last session before the end of the season. I always remember it. And the girl who was taking it didn't actually watch my session, but she just looked at my CV and just thought, well, he's worked at the Centre of Excellence for 4 years. And I'd done a little bit at MK Dons for a few months, and went back to Northampton because I thought the grass was greener, and it definitely wasn't. And then I'd done a year where I'd been down as a casual coach at Arsenal. And that looks really good in your CV. Do you know what I mean? Working with an age group, but didn't coach many sessions there. But you were still down.
Was that Arsenal?
Girls Centre of Excellence.
So that was when Arsenal was.
Yeah, so
everything.
So
Kelly Smith.
That time, it was mad because I always remember. I went to New Zealand in 2011 for the Rugby World Cup, and I come back and I've been offered I have to confess now. I went to Oxford for pre-season at Oxford United Girls Centre of Excellence because they restructured the Centre of Excellence programme. Yeah. And Northampton lost their licence, I suppose not logistic, that's not the word, geographically, and MK Dons got it. And I didn't want to go back to MK Dons because I got my fingers burnt there, but went to Oxford pre-season, the best setup ever. Centre of Excellence wise was the best setup ever. Yeah. So professional, from under 9s all the way through to the seniors, real good structure, great foundations there. But I'd done pre-season, but I was going to New Zealand for the Rugby World Cup in 2011. And whilst I was out there, I got an email because I'd applied for a job at Arsenal.
Yeah.
And did I do a session before and out? I might have done a session before and out. Yeah, I did. I did with John Bayer. And banging session, like proper like fitness SAQ session. Like I really enjoyed it. And he did a session after me, and I was still watching. And again, it was magic because I think he was very, very good at coaching the juniors. And it was, he had 4 cones, best session I've ever seen for a long while. Played 65 in the penalty area. I did 4 cones, and it just fascinated me because like when you coach sessions, you kind of get in a plane to land, aren't you? But yeah, they offered me a job whilst I was out in New Zealand. I was like, oh yeah, I'll come back. And then I had to tell Oxford that I wasn't coming back. So I was like, because Arsenal offered, but it's only like a casual coach. So I took like maybe 3-4 sessions when I was there because I was only like there was like a head and assistant and then myself. But the age group they had, and the players would never ever remember, but it was the age group of 15s was name dropping, Liam Williamson, Carla Humphreys, and stuff like that. So and never ever like they would never ever remember being there. 'Cause I think I remember a session. I always remember the session that I took when I was there with a girl called Angela, because Richard Hill was there. Richard Hill was a Rugby World Cup winner for England when they won the World Cup. And I love rugby, so I was fascinated to see him, and he's one of the best players for me in rugby. And he was taking Saracens at the time at Hertfordshire, and I was just like in awe of him more than worried about the football. But so on your CV, obviously the girl at Brighton thought, he must be all right because he's put big time a couple of clubs he's been at, not obviously Grassroots Club. So yeah, never watched my session, but then took me on.
Well, you don't turn down Arsenal first of all, especially at that time. If they come calling, some of the names you name dropping, just put out there.
Mate, I don't think a couple of 2-hour sessions is going to I've never made play. I've never played players like you do. I'm dropping that.
Shots fired.
Right, he claims everything.
I know he does. I work with him
I'm not claiming nobody. At no given point will I ever claim.
You know what? He's also a humble guy as well.
I'm not claiming all the players that have gone on to play international football.
Working at a club like Arsenal, when they were at their peak, their powers in the women's game, let's not forget, for a long time, Arsenal were dominating. They were either like the Barcelona or the Manchester City of now in the women's game. What was it like to be at a club and seeing every other club around it trying to either mimic it or grow from it?
Do you know what? It's one of those that you see, like, so I always remember the first day I went there, because I've got a picture, I still get a picture of the staff photo, because I want to
we need this up for YouTube.
Yeah, I'll find it. It'll be something, it might be mum and dad's to be fair, but anyway, and I always remember the picture of my mate, Loopy was coaching it here in Lindop, and he, I'm name dropping as much as I can, by the way.
These tags are going to go up on Twitter.
Because they can retweet it. See what I'm cheers. He's not bad. He's not bad player to be fair. No, he was coaching. I always remember getting the kit, and it was like now we wear like skinny bottoms. This was like baggy arms. But you got the kit, and you got like 3 bags, and you went into the toilets at this Hertfordshire uni or whatever it was, and you like put a kit on. You were like, yeah, I'm bagging it. And you were just like, yeah, and I'm like, I love kit. Everyone knows that I love kit. It's a running joke in the whole game, but like,
no, but everyone loves kit. Let's be honest, like. Anyone that works in football loves a bit of kit.
You get Hazy a jacket, he's happy.
Mate, you get
that's all I need to get you, I know
I'm representing Northern Ireland today because they're my team, but like...
Any club I get Hazy a jacket.
Get us training kit, yeah?
No, I have to buy it.
If anyone wants Hazy, just get him a jacket. Bribe him with a jacket. When you meet him, say, look, we've got the best jacket, man. Get it. And Hazy's in.
Just give me a kit, I didn't pay him.
Yeah, just to rewind about...
No, I think for me, like having been, let's just name drop the clubs, like, so you got Northampton, Oxford, MK Dons.
Yeah.
And to go with Brighton as well, to be fair, in my later years, the thing at Arsenal, the thing they had, it was the badge. The badge carried so much because you never had to worry. But like essentially, you look at the setup, and we had it in Northampton really, really well actually. And Steve, our boss, we had it really well. He had it good there. He had you had the head coach, you had the assistant, you had an apprentice coach. So Arsenal obviously had a similar thing, but. Even just being involved in it, I hardly ever went. I went to like 2 games maybe because you weren't ever needed. Because like if you're coaching for that club, you're never going to not go. But it was like just when you were there, you're standing there and you're thinking, I've played against them for like 4 years, and like I've only ever like drawn against them. I've never beat them. I've only ever drawn against them. But like you stand there and like the players were. Their worst player was better than your best player near enough sometimes. And you were just like, this is insane.
Yeah.
Because, we had even a girl who was playing at Northampton, Taylor Hines, who's now at Liverpool, she went from our under-12s to go and play for Arsenal. She's checking from the other side of Northampton to go there. And you were like, and she was like our outstanding player. Then she was just within the Arsenal squad. She was good, very, very good, but like, she was in the squad. And you're like, she's like head and shoulders our best player under 12s at Northampton, like mentally. But yeah, like it's insane. But I think it's just a brand, because you go and work for Barcelona, you go and work for any like pro club, you're going to feel like part of it, even if it's like, you know, my hometown team like Lincoln City, you'd be wearing a badge thinking, oh, yeah, but Arsenal's, the United's, the Cities, the bigger teams. You're just all of a sudden you're like, it's another world, isn't it?
Just another question as well. Like you said, like the players went up. Did the levels of structure and training and things like that take another step up as well?
Nothing. It's just sorry to cut you. All it is, and I think it's just within the game anyway. Like you go up the ladders, the game gets quicker, faster, play better players. It's one of those. It's the old saying I really like, that the better players make better decisions more consistently, and that's all it was. Like you had a player in centre mid. So I used to have a girl at Northampton, the best player she was. If I pitched her against the Carla Humphreys who had played against us, like Carla would make better decisions more consistently, whereas this other girl I had, Chloe, she would make good decisions but not as consistently, and that's what made like Carla go on and still play in the female game in WSL. Like, and you look at that and you think, when you played against her, I thought she was the best player because she was consistently making the right decisions. And I think that's the only difference. I think it's just the quality of player and the decision making of the player.
But does that come at a younger age, teaching them at a younger age to make the better decisions?
100%, yeah. I think you've got to. There's got to be a structure in place and in the early ages to get the best out of it. And I always think that a lot of clubs trial ideas of like putting the best coaches. So if you're a B license, you're like, right, with the 14s and 16s, because you're a B license, you can do functions and phases of play that fucking are just completely dead, aren't they, in the game? But like not dead, but there's a place for it. Yeah. But now, like, we're going, right, get the B licenses under 10s.
Yeah, they're taking they've gone.
So then they go and get specialised coaches, and then I think we're doing coaching badges this day and age. I think putting essentially, if you want to class them as the better coaches, I don't think anyone's a better coach. Anyone's just got more experience or
different ideas.
Yeah, different ideas, that kind of thing. But I think them going into younger ages, I think massively, in my opinion, massively helps the kids become. Because if I was doing under 10s at level 2 coach compared to if I did it now, 10 times better.
Can I just ask what I know Carl asked? Was all the coaches at all the levels on the same page then? Like, we're all going to play this way. So, you know, like, again, I can only go by what's currently going, like tiki-taka, like at City. Every structure of the club plays tiki-taka from under 12s to... Yeah,
I think that's what I said. Oxford had a really good thing. They had this thing where, and I've looked at it at the minute with in my sessions with the 11v11 formation, and structure that as 7-a-side and 8-a-side and 9-a-side, and you know, in your sessions when you've only got, you know, you're playing 10v11, what's your formation that you would replicate when you're playing 11-a-side, and what player would you take out or whatever it be? And they had it, that would then mirror the first team's formation from under 10s or under 9s or whatever age they'd go from. And I think that's got to be a starting point. And I think if you look at the success of clubs, I think they either build up from the foundations, or they essentially buy or get in the best from the clubs that have got the best foundations.
Yeah.
Look at all the players that, you know, that come through the youth ranks that they get bought at 14 years old. They've obviously had a great foundation somewhere, and it could be that that's the best setup up until under 14s. But then the next club they go to is probably the best club from 14s to seniors, or to 17s, 18s, and then there's another club that will take them onto the professional level. But
so essentially, what we've just kind of touched on about the players going for the badge, as we said, they go for the badge, and I've had it way too many times where you're at a good environment and you've created such a good environment, you're like, this is the best environment for the player, but a badge sways a plaid. Sussex girls that was travelling all the way to London at times just for a badge. Yeah. It wasn't that it was a better structure or anything, it was just because...
Looks better on Instagram.
To be honest, that's why I'm here. Remember, Carl?
That's why I put a Northern Ireland badge on, because I'm like, yeah.
Just to touch on this today, when I first started, I think I got a gig at Cray Women, and then the captain got in contact. We should have met earlier. That's probably I should have said as well. But then I came, and he goes, "Oh, you want to stay?" And I was like, "No, I'm loyal to the people that got me in. I'm going to stay at Cray for a little while." And he goes, "Yeah, but it's Cheltenham, you know, it's a bigger club." And after a few weeks, I think he had me in the club. He had me kicked by the second time I'd seen him.
But I think the difference is there is it's local. Like if it's like Palace and Charlton, they're local clubs. Like they've got the same catchment area. I'm talking about girls going from Sussex, 1.5 to 2-hour ride to where they're going, to then go back 2.5 hours.
Players that I speak to that won't go to play. Let's say tier 3 in a women's game. Won't play tier 3 in a women's game, and will stay in a development squad in a WSL club is fascinating, because I think to myself, you don't give yourself the opportunity. And like, I always remember there was Chichester ladies when Smithy was there. Like they were third. They finished third in the National League.
Yeah,
like, do you know what I mean?
remember that.
The
Yeah.
players wouldn't even go there. You're like, you want to stay at the WSL development squad for what? Like getting promised the first team stuff, and I get that because I'm not involved in the club, so I'm not privy to conversations that a first team manager would have with a development squad manager or players if they're going, yeah, you'll get your opportunity. But I think too many times I hear it. And even this year as well, even with Enfield, we had a player like Lee Rusin go to a WSL club for their DS, and they got told within 2 years you play first team. And I thought, how can you tell that player in 2 years' time that you're going to make them be a first team player? You don't know where the club will be, you don't know where that player's going to be, like physically, mentally, or anything. And now the player, within 6 months, I know it's been rubbish with the pandemic. Within 6 months, she's playing tier 5 or tier 6, and you're like, you'd have been potentially one of our starting players in tier 4, and you're thinking. Well,
do you know
because
what?
the badge, and they've gone down to the badge.
Yeah.
They've gone down to a club. Just because Enfield's not a badge and it's not like a known professional football club, they've gone to a badge of another club, and you're like.
But players will drop from like sort of Enfield to a team in a lower division if they've got a men's team linked with the professional game, just because they get to wear that badge.
Yeah, but
I think that's what's
it's
probably wrong at the moment.
But it's not rude, is it? It's not rude to any player. It's not disrespecting any player's decision out there. I don't want that to come across as like I've got a problem with anyone. So I genuinely don't care who you play for.
Yeah.
Like all I care for is that are you all right and are you enjoying it? And that's the rest of it I couldn't care less if you go. But the amount of players, and do excuse me if I offend any player out there, but like the players that are playing at QPR, that are playing at Millwall, that are playing there for a badge, when actually. That's great and wonderful, and if the environment's brilliant and the manager's great and everything, and then I fair play to you, but
100%.
I see too many that will, like you say, they'll put a badge before playing a high level.
Yeah.
But if the environment's great, and I'd say I don't want to offend anybody at these clubs, but like, say let's just use Millwall to mention it. If that Millwall ladies manager has got the best environment and has got everything going on, and fair play to her, but how many players are there that she potentially believes could go and play on a better level? And would they ever go and play the better level without leaving a badge? It's like, you can enjoy your football, but actually, where's the trade-off of enjoying your football to the challenge?
There's also those players that put the extra miles in. I won't mention clubs or teams or players, but there's now players that you and I have met, and players that I now know through different ways of football. Some of them are travelling from, I don't know. Some of them are travelling from near Norwich just to come down to South East London, or vice versa, because the facilities they're going to get, or the opportunities.
Facilities is different though.
No, but it's the opportunity. It's facilities and opportunities as well.
Yeah.
Like if someone's travelling from South East London to Norwich because their opportunity is better, they're putting in their miles. And like you said before, some players don't give themselves that credit. So there's always the two sides of the story we're trying to get at. And those players who are putting themselves out there, they may not make it, but you know what? At least they know.
I'd always ask the player the question, how I'd always look at it, go, is that the best level you can play? And if it is, then knock yourself out and carry on, and then potentially go and develop on. But if it's not the best level you can play, then why then go to that club? Because then, me as a player, personally, I never played a good level at all. I did generally just play like local league football because I was never any good. But these the females, that's the female game. These females get an opportunity in professional football clubs. Yeah. If you could go and play tier 3, or you can go and play tier 4, and you're in tier 5 or tier 6, then why would you not give yourself that chance and that opportunity to do it? Because you don't know where it goes. Like I know, at Enfield, Bill's had like a couple of players in recent years that are now playing in WSL, and fair play to them girls. Like, I don't know them like massively that well, but like Beth Lumsden's at Charlton, she had you chat to her, she had the best time ever at Enfield because she decided to drop down a league, which is fine to play that level to then go back up. And if that's what their journey is, then that's what
I think it's they're scared. Some is that worry that if I do drop, will I get back? And it is even the male game. It's the same thing. It's that fear of, and I know we should all say you should have that self belief that you will get back there, and some people do. But some people are genuinely worried about if I drop, and will I get given an opportunity? Some people don't know how to leave clubs without burning bridges. That's one of the things. Yeah. So you can say, look, I need to go play, but sometimes managers might not like that, so they might.
I think if you sat there and you said, right, here's all the football league badges, who would you play for, and you pick out your ones, and then you go, right, here's the non-league game. But some of them are like, I see some of the teams on there that look like they've got, and it's all looking like, so you don't know until you're in that environment. But like, I don't know, Sutton United at the minute look like they're doing some bits like
Oh,
that.
yeah,
Do you know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah.
And it looks good on the outside. Don't know what's like on the inside, but it looks
100%.
great on the outside. You know, would players go and drop down to tier 5 to go and play there for what it is? But then the badge doesn't suit. Like I know players that would go and play for Charlton. Over going to play for Enfield because Charlton's got a badge essentially, and it's just like I'm not saying every player, broad brush every player, but it's just there's been too many players that I've seen that have gone that way.
If you flip it though, the bit I do understand when players do go to this, if they're interlinked with their club and like, for example, I use Charlton because I work for Charlton. Like we train at the training ground.
Yeah.
That's a catchment. That's different. You know, your training's not going to be called off. You know, little things like that. That I understand that if you're going to drop because you might play first team, but they train in the park or they train somewhere that your training might always be.
And I think that's the key. Like, and you touched on it earlier, environment, and that's my biggest word I'll ever use. And everyone knows, everyone jokes about it. I use it because I don't use standards. I use environment. But like, when I've gone into Enfield this year, like, and everything that I want to happen, everything I've seen from the last 15 odd years of coaching, no matter if in the grassroots club or been at like the best time I had at Brighton, like. I've tried to amalgamate all those ideas together, be it that, you know, we have a big drinks like bucket thing, we chuck drinks in, we don't mind saying that, we pay out of our own money for that. We decide, me and the management team say, come on, we'll put 20 quid in and we'll pay for that. But the tiniest bit of difference, the minimal kind of things of like the jokes of the 1% and the marginal gains, they're not really marginal gains buying drinks, but like the professionalism that you have of that, trying to replicate that to say, actually, like, we have probably got a setup that is good enough to be in tier 3 for a starting point, but we're in tier 4. We have to get out of that. Depends what goes on in the next few months with whatever the FA decide. Yeah. But at the minute, that's where we're at. And if we can get and attract players because they see what we're offering, then I think that's different. And the environment is got to be, for me, like the huge. But we've signed some fantastic players this year. Yeah, and I can tell.
Oh, name dropping about to happen, boy.
If you, nah, she's only on BT, Camilla. She's but the players that we've signed have come in because they've seen what we're about, and some of them have left clubs they've been at for years. Some of them have played in WSL. Some have played for for professional football club badges and stuff. So you kind of think like they've come to us and they just enjoy it. And hopefully, I'd speak for the main, but the majority of them, when I speak to them, they're like actually just they love everything we've got going on at the minute. So it's kind of like a massive building process. But
I would also what you said there is, and I've seen it because what we need to remember is the women's game is still growing, and we've just spoken about players leave for badges. But let me flip it again and play devil's advocate. There are a lot of players that won't leave clubs because that's all they know. Like there's players that have been at, for Charlton, for example, from doing their kind of community stuff from 8, got into their RTCs, gone from RTC to under 16s, and that's all they know is that club. I had a player that all she knew was Dartford, and I got her off of Dartford, but I had to talk to her, and I had friends talk to her, but that's all they know. And
sort of like weaning them off, isn't it?
It's difficult for them to make that leap.
Who likes change though?
That's it. But sometimes it is difficult. So because we spoke about the ones that will see a badge, to jump. But then there are, on the other hand, loads of players that just won't leave because that's all. It could be at Enfield. They've been at their system, and all they know is Enfield. They wouldn't even look at a WSL because that's that worry.
Well, again, the environment thing that we are trying to build, and I know they've been there for a few years. As I said, there's been 1 or 2 players every year that have kind of either come down and that's been their platform to go and play regular football, to then go up to play WSL. If there was any given player, like even if a tier 3 team came in for any of our players, or a team that was perceived to be better in our league, I'd like to think we're one of the kind of top 3 or 4 teams in our league. I'd think personally, having seen 7-8 league games out there. Yeah. But I think that we've built a platform that I'm definitely, I would never ever stop a player. If someone put 7 Daher in, please don't. Go on. If they did for a player that I was like, do you know what, actually in my opinion, they've got the potential to go and play that, I would say to that player, go chat to them, go and find out what their training session's like, go and find out what it feels like to be in there, because you could be in there for 2 weeks or a week or whatever they perceive their trial process to be, and it could be that it's the worst experience I've ever had. But on the flip side, it could be 10 times better than Enfield. And then I'll be like, well, knock yourself out. Can I have a little bit of a fee for you to go? And then you go. Do you know what I mean? Because you'd be like, knock yourself out.
I think that's it. And it's with us, like, I'm the same. Like, if I've got a player, and there's some players that I love the bits, that, like, especially like Lewis team I had up in Sussex, like all of them girls there, I'd never have stopped him from progressing. If they had said like Brighton spoke to me at WSL or this club spoke to me here, I would never have gone, stay at Lewis because we're a championship. And it probably works against me. And if you're for a club I work for and you're listening, look, if the player can progress to a better level, I get you want to keep them, but it's about looking after, as a coach, you look after the player. When we're first team managers, we'll probably think differently. But right now, as coaches, we look at looking after the player, be that with your club, be that with another club, be that sometimes having different conversations of, look, this maybe isn't your level, you probably got to drop a little bit to go and play a bit.
But I think that comes from your background in coaching. Like, so because of where I've worked in, essentially, the years I've coached, I've probably only done really competitive league format. Let's take grassroots aside, probably 2 seasons of competitive football, and that's it. So everything's been development football. So for me, nothing is better than that player going and playing for a better team, or going to play for a more professional football club, or signing a contract. And I say I've never ever claimed a player, but for them to be given that platform to go on to then explore their game further. So I know, I had a girl at Brighton. She was sensational. Was a holding mid for me, and she used that platform to go on to
So like a stepping stone.
Yeah. Like I say, this is never claiming, by the way, but she went on to play for England. She was always in round out fringes, but she went on to play for England, and there's nothing better than seeing that. And then she went out to the stage. She's come back. She's now still at Brighton. So just that's for me. You don't have to worry about what you've done in that season or 2 years with her. You're that's their platform that you've helped them kind of go wherever they want to go afterwards. Kind of
just to rewind it back as well. You said it's the little things, and as someone who's worked at clubs and been in different clubs, and now I'm obviously pushing on into the women's game with yourself, Carl. But the little things I think make the biggest difference, and especially in development sides or non-league, which I'm heavily associated with, is you go somewhere and you see their setup, and it's like you said, the drinks thing. Or like Carl, you've got myself in now, you've got Uchi and TJ, or setting up before they get there so they see it, or getting the free drinks. All those things are more important, I would say, than even having the best team. Because if you had the little things in place, sometimes as well, when players do go somewhere, they go, well, we never had that there. Like you said, the things that we do, and I can't let everyone into our secrets because I have obviously all the answers. Off camera.
They do nothing different to anybody else. We all have ideas what we're doing, but literally the little things that I always said when I first went into Enfield, I strolled up to the pre-season training, and first time I ever met them all there, and I was just it looks like Rag-Ass Rovers because where's all the training kit? So I said to Bill, Bill, get them all in a kit. So we forked out loads of money this year.
They love you, I bet.
Free hazing could just cost you loads of money. I don't charge it to coach, but it costs you loads of money. But just getting kit. But no, there was literally all the girls have all their training kit. They have all player tech vests. We have the VO camera. We have the little drinks. They have get into the dressing room and their kit's all laid out perfectly for them. So there's nothing different to what anyone else does. But it's all the stuff that is essentially nothing to do with my coaching job. That is what they're getting, and you're
I can vouch for that fully. A couple of years ago, I joined a team and they were in a bit of a disarray, and I just changed the little things. So, like you said, first of the weekend I was there, I put the kit out and they went, "Oh, we've never had that before," and I said, "Okay, well, we're going to make sure there's water bottles on the side." "Oh, we'll normally have to bring our own water bottles." And then a week later, I said, "Right, everyone, we didn't buy them kit. I said, look, everyone's got to go and buy this exact shirt, this exact same top, and these exact shorts." And it's the little things, because once you start getting people looking the same, and once you start getting them into a routine of these little things are there and they haven't got to worry about it, everything just goes on to the game.
I think it's always is. We talked about clubs before, but when you used to play against the Arsenals, the Chelseas, etc. At this level, when they bowled up to your ground, 9 times out of 10 you lost it psychologically before you started. 2, they've come up and there's 16 players. They're all in their kit. They're all in the same trainers. They're all all the coaching staff are all pristine. And then there's you don't get me wrong. The difference between Nike and Aria are massively different.
You're standing in your sausage jacket.
You don't take it off, but you're there. And Northampton, they had everything. And everyone looked the same. It was good, but then they turn up and you're like, hold on a second. And even your psychology thinking, Jesus, this is mad. And that's
even when you go to put the cones out though, and the cones are not all the same. That absolutely jars me.
Yeah,
but that's what you just said. The psychological side. You can win a game by walking in. to an environment. If we was Charlton, for example, we bowled into an environment where all of our Charlton gear, we're together, unified. Coaches are in their gear. Cameraman setting his stuff up. Analysts setting their stuff up. You got S&C setting their stuff up, and then you're playing against a team that's got 2 coaches. And yes, they're doing that.
I see it, and you see stuff in clippings, don't you? Small things. I always remember when I had to. Obviously, I mentioned Northern Ireland again. I was out in Northern Ireland, and a player that I used to coach, coaches Vicky Ashton-Jones. She was playing for Linfield at the time. Linfield best team in Northern Ireland, by the way. Man and female. What do you know? Just a stat.
Okay, taking Linfield in today.
So just for a stat, right? I support 4 teams because everyone knows that I can't just support one. Right, so here we go. Leeds United, 1991. They were top of the league. So I supported them. So then they won the league that year with Campbell. And some amazing players. I went to Wembley to watch Leeds beat Liverpool as well in '92, 4-3. Campbell got a hat-trick. And then, so I support them, and I've always supported them. And then I kind of left them for about 16 years, and everyone knew they kind of went Championship League One, and I sort of left them a little bit. Now, obviously, I support them again, because now they're Premier League.
Glory hunter!
This is the worst thing, right? So 3 other teams that let's just say, I support and follow through either family kind of things or whatever, right? Born and bred in Lincoln, so Lincoln I support.
Yeah.
I think at the minute top of League One.
They've done well.
Banging. Always used to go and watch them at Central Bank. Found out the other day they've got the name of the stadium's different. Lincoln City, they play at Central Bank, is what it used to be called. Keith Alexander, late Keith Alexander, unfortunately passed away, but he was the manager. I used to go to Wembley all the time for the playoff finals. Then we go to Cardiff and we lost 5-2 against Bournemouth.
I've been to Cardiff a few times.
They're horrible. But they, and then Linfield, Northern Ireland, best team in Northern Ireland, top of the league, easily, this year with David Healy, the absolute messiah of football, as a gaffer. And then Rangers, Glasgow Rangers.
Rangers, all day long.
Why Rangers?
Dad supported Rangers. Because when you come from a family in Northern Ireland that's Protestant, you never support Celtic. You never support Cliftonville. It's literally Linfield and Rangers.
There is only 2 teams in Scotland.
Do you know what?
There's 3 now because Cole Lafferty's just signed for Kilmarnock, and I love Cole Lafferty. He's the one guy I want to meet in my life. So
you know what? I always thought there was 4 with Aberdeen and Hearts, but they're sort of like it's like, you know, you've got the top 6 in England, and then you've got the Evertons and the West Ham's Leeds. No.
But Arsenal, isn't it?
That's the top 5.
But let's filter back to yourself and your UEFA in 2011. I think you done the assessment. You done that the old style, they'd say, the UEFA.
Just because I'm old,
Wait, Carl, didn't you do the old style? You done it where it was assessed and there was an actual.
Oh yeah, it was a passing.
So the short story of it is that no one turned up for our assessment. It was at the time, and I've talked to you about at the time, the 4 county FAs couldn't fill a B licence course in 2011, 2009, 2010 I think it was.
When the crisis happened.
Pretty much. So we had 24 people on this course, and none was paid for it. It was all sponsored by McDonald's at the time, randomly.
Come on, Carl, get it up.
But then we did no one turned up for the assessment. There was, I think about 3 people turned up, so no one could do it anyway. So we got a contact about a year and a half later saying your 2-year thing was going to run out. So I had to go and do an assessment at a college in Bicester, and it was like I think there was like 24 things on the list, and you had to be a tick in either of the 2 boxes.
Did you pass first time? That's my question. Because I heard the old rumour of that is you never pass first time with the old style B, and you had to go for the second time to show you're interested, and then pass your second time. Right. That was the rumour.
Let me talk about my session. I got given a goalkeeper session because at the time the geezer who I did my course hated me, proper hated me. Turned up and the goalkeeper was the backup goalkeeper for Trinidad and Tobago under Shaka Hislop at the time.
Big shout.
And I was doing defended from crosses. This geezer shelled every cross. So I was like, fullback, let him deliver. I'm not bothered. I can do anything from that. He's taken it all in the end. There were college kids at Vista, to be fair to. But no, so out of 24 boxes, I should have brought it with me. I think on the first 20 minutes that I coached, I think I got 21 or 22 boxes ticked. And then it was literally the size of the area was wrong. Yeah. So I was like, all right. And I think I had to coach on, around and off the ball. I think it was the other one or something like that. And within about 4 minutes of my next 20 minutes, the guy was like, Hazy, you're done, mate. You pass. So the myth is false.
Maybe he's the exception to the rule.
You was exception because you only have 4 people.
And my goalkeeper for defending crosses
Yeah,
was an international goalkeeper.
That probably helped a little.
I mean, if it was anybody else, I'd struggle.
How much did you pay that keeper that day?
Oh, mate, he was mate, he was 6'5". I'm not lying to you.
Did he actually ever make any appearances?
Do you know what? I would never ever, if you told me his name today, I couldn't tell you his name. But I just always remember, and it was one of those things that, like, when you know when you go and you go, yeah, like, oh, how are you in the game? Like, yeah, I played in the FA Cup once. Like, you give it one of them. He might have just been one of them, but mate, he was sensational. But
So from your B, you're doing bits with Brighton.
Yep.
Brighton women. You got loads of pictures of there. We're gonna have to find one and stick that out. I was on the sideline at the Amex pointing fingers.
Was the Alex even there?
oh, mate, it was empty. There was no one there. It was a photo shoot. It was like that.
But yeah, so I'll get that up. But
They were actually, to be fair, there was about 3,500 fans behind us, but yeah, we're pointing for a photo shoot. I was like, we're stuck in under security. I need to take a photo quickly.
from there, where did you go from Brighton then? Afterwards, or was that kind of the break and Sussex was involved? Or was...
Brighton. No, to be fair, I can touch on Brighton. Brighton was good. I had 3 years in Centre of Excellence a year. I probably had the best year of coaching with Marzi, and I have to say his name because I generally his name being mentioned in the female game is underrated. He's underrated. And I don't mind talking about him. He'll probably have a go at me pretty late on the phone. I was going to ring him and say it's all right to mention your name, but I know. But anyway, he
Thanks.
best coach. No, he's not social media. Best coach in best coach I know. Hands down.
Yeah.
In 16 years of coaching, I wouldn't know how many coaches I've seen.
I haven't met him myself. I think I've seen him.
This is someone you haven't met, Carl.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Best coach by there was literally probably I don't want to name the best coach I know because then I'll offend people if I don't mention him.
One of you.
Marzi, head and shoulders, like best coach I know, and I don't mind telling him it's probably taken me now about 6 or 7 years of being best mates to tell him this, but in sensational. I enjoyed that year of being in a senior setup, and a kind of year later than I probably should have, and winning the Southern Prem again. Getting the opportunity for the girls to play in the playoff final was great. They were obviously won the playoff final and went up to the WSL. But that year of football was sensational. You lived and breathed football. It was like I was flying in my full-time job, absolutely flying. I was probably the best store manager for the co-op that I was working for at the time. I was doing some HR work, and then I was just like literally like Monday to Sunday working. I didn't enough for Brighton because I lived on the drive of the training ground.
That's great.
So I'd get home, shower, and then we'd do stuff. But lived and breathed it. Like, do you know what I mean? I based my full-time job around coaching for the first time ever in my life, and it was like, it was great.
Had to have been experienced. That's when the game was slowly coming up as well. So it was.
Oh, do you know what? I wouldn't say we were. There's some. I don't want to. Again, I'm not definitely not one to claim, but at the time, at 3.5, I think it was 3 or 3,500 against Charlton actually, beat them 2-0.
Throw that one out there.
But I don't think they had a shot on target. Shots. And if Charlie Cliff was watching, she come off after 2 minutes. To be fair, like Guernsey and Jay Blackie scored, but
was Guernsey at Brighton at the time?
She's a player.
Yeah, sensational player. But they, oh God, I've been nice about it. No, but like that, let's say jokes aside, behind us, there was like, I think it was like 3,000 people or something, or 3.5. I don't know, but at the time it was some record to do it. So there wasn't many at the time that, especially us in Tier 3, like there wasn't many at the time that had been given an opportunity to play at a men's ground. Yeah. And I think, I'm not saying it was a start point for it, because again, I'm never that. But there was a point where all of a sudden, like, you know, you had I think Charlton played at the Valley, didn't they? And then Palace played at Sellers Park. And then all of a sudden, like, teams were doing it because it was the thing to do, isn't it? Because, like, you know, Tracy, our boss at the time, like, what the work she put into, like, monumental, like, getting it all sorted, and the backing of the club was sensational. So, like, you were like, to get that game being played there, and you had like the first team men's players come watch, and now it's like, it's not the norm now, but it's starting to kind of, look at Spurs last year or the year before. They played like, I think there's a point, whoever they played, I think playing like the home grounds of like 3 or 4 clubs in the go. They played, they're not Highbury, it's not Highbury anymore, it's the Emirates. They played the Emirates, played at White Hart Lane, they played at Upton Park as well. They played, and you were like, this is mad. And they were getting 30, 40, 50,000, and you were like, perfect, because when I was in the game, you'd only get that FA Cup final day, either at, I think it was at the Re-Op one.
It was a few times. It was at Selhurst Park.
Yeah, that's the only time you'd get like
Charlton
thousands and thousands of people to watch. But then we had obviously we were blessed at that point to have that game at the Amex at the time, and it was an experience.
But no, it was definitely a building block, and 100%. From what you just said, it just sounds like that's the experience you want. That you use part of something.
I'd tell you like
By history.
That season, like, and we don't talk about it very very often for our own personal reasons, but like every single one of them players to this day, I'd run through brick walls for them. I'd do anything for them. If anyone rang me to this day and said, "Hey, like, can you do that?" You're like a family, and it goes back to the whole environment and all the small bits of detail. Loads of stuff we could improve on, loads of stuff we could have done differently, but in the main, like that was like the team we'd got together. I'm talking like we were in tier 3 at the time, and it was like we only won the league by 2 points as well. Yeah. We only won the league by 2 points to Charlton, but like the 2 points that we won it by, for me personally, were the players, and everything they did for 3 times a week we trained, but also like maybe I'm going to say 16 members of staff, maybe. And do you know what I mean? And you forget that there was at the time my wife at the time, she was like the head physio. Then you had like 3 sports therapists. Then you had like a head of S&C, an assistant S&C. You had Marzi, you had me, you had Amy Merricks who was coaching the development squad. You had Curtis Foster, and then all of a sudden you had a goalkeeping coach. And then you had it was just like then you had a nutritionist, a psychologist, and you're like we're only like, not really. I'm saying we're only playing tier 3, but we were in tier 3, and then we were like only one by 2.
But I think that's what it is. People don't realise to get to a certain level, the behind the scenes, because obviously all that's ever really shown is the in front of the players and the coaches that are coaching it. You never really see the physio, the S&C. Like there's like you said, psychiatrists now. You know, do people really know who they are at clubs unless they're on a club website? The most,
and I don't. This is my own opinion of that season. We've got the players obviously did what they did. They deserved that league title themselves. That was them. They can only go and do what you ask them to do, or you give them the ideas and they go and deliver that. That's them players won that league title and then players won that promotion to WSL. But for me personally, my own personal thing, there was one person who won that league for that year, which was a guy called John Mazzei. He was a psychologist.
Yeah.
I would not want to do his job in any context of the female game because he was sensational. Like, even me and Marty had a meeting with him to talk about our relationship and how we worked as coaches, and that was like sensational to find out stuff like what we said. But I think he personally, dealing with playing at the Amex, dealing with, we had to win 5 games out of 5 to win the league, and dealing with the last game of the season to try and win that and go into an absolute hole against Spurs and winning that and the whole build up to it all, massively.
Did you during that? Because we touched on it on our last pod. Was you talking about the female cycle with the players? So you
excuse me. I did briefly go through it. I didn't listen to the last podcast. There's 2 girls on it. I would still want that, man. But one bit I did see was actually one of the questions about well-being thing about the menstrual cycle. But actually, you find they all go on at the same time, don't they? They all finally kind of all sync together, and they're kind of that happens at the same time. But we've just done a well-being questionnaire, really randomly for Enfield.
But did you do that when you was winning the league with Brighton? Was that something that was integrated into that?
No, not massively, but like the kind of the nutritionist, the psychologist, the S&C, they all dealt with all that because essentially our job was on the grass and such.
It's the trust within your team to deal with different sections and letting the team manager who manages it all deal with them different sections.
Mate, you never. It's always talked about, and I say stuff to Enfield at the minute, like we just brought the girls back together on a Zoom the other night, but you don't see the hours that go on behind the scenes. It doesn't matter if you're tier 5, 6, 7, like not getting paid. Don't matter what it is. Like we literally So I had to coach Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and game Sunday. Now, I probably talked football with Marzi Monday to Sunday, and then you had a meeting. I had to go. I think my time was 7.
To say, how often did your staff? You said you had 16 members of staff, give or take. Even now though, you've got staff X, Y, Z. How often do you guys contact a week without the players? Even though I know we live in a group chat now, but even before group chats, you'd have to.
I'd say there's always something every single day. Like my phone's went off this morning about our social media posts because we're doing something in a minute to kind of mental well-being and just a positive quote every day from the girls, and that's come from a player's idea. So
that's great.
You're always thinking of something that you look on. He's taking all the quotes. And yeah, you just got to do something, but every single day. But like Brian, I think I had to work 7 till 9 in the evening, like 3 nights a week. But I'd be in there at 4 o'clock and I'd be home at like 11. And it was like a 2-minute walk up. And it was just like, and you were doing that 3 nights a week and you're like, wait a minute, this is like, it's actually, let's just say 5 hours, it's 15 hours of training a week in reality in the time you're there. So massive effort.
So that's a great experience and something that you'll hold. And essentially, if you don't talk about it for a certain reason, that's completely you're not talking about that.
I wanted to
I'd like a league winners medal if that's.
Do you know what? Is that why you don't talk about it? Is that why you don't talk about it?
What I didn't ask you though.
Yeah, I will say that some people out there have got a league as well. I think they turned up to the playoff game and they got a league as well. I'm like, are you all right? Are you okay?
I wanted to ask, because you said obviously it wasn't, football wasn't your full-time job, and you was doing other jobs, around it. What kind of sacrifices have you made to sort of be? Because look, you said at one point you was at co-op. Yeah. So like, obviously it hasn't always.
He's getting on the banner for tags. I'll take it. No worry, we might get some sponsorship.
No, but on a serious note, like you're saying, obviously you're now like a teacher / PE teacher. What?
I'm not a PT, just a shooter.
So you're a tutor. But like you're saying, you've done all those jobs as well, and you're fitting football around it. Some people don't even know about the sacrifices you make in, like, especially with Carl or anyone else that's in the game, especially in the women's game. So you have to make more sacrifices, I think, in the women's game now and before than ever before. So how was it trying to manage a job and then trying to manage your dream?
I wouldn't say football was a dream. I just enjoyed. I think football's more of a hobby more than anything else. But I think if you want to do it, then you do it, don't you? Like if I want to, like I'm sitting up last night at like 11:30, 12 o'clock, writing some stuff down for Enfield because it's coming to my head, and because I don't remember stuff.
Oh, not for us.
I have to write something down to go. Oh, what's that I remember now? And I thought, I've not changed it, or I've not done that, or I've not put that. I've not thought about that in the player profile pack that I've just done, or whatever it is. You just like random thought. You think, right, I've got to do it, but I think you invest the time that you. I think that old saying, whatever you put in, you should essentially get out of it. And I disagree with saying the female. I think male and female. I've seen both sides. That it doesn't. I think not to get controversial, but football's football, and I know we separate the two, the male game and the female game. It's a game of football.
No, it is. It's a game of football, and it's all one thing. But
No, I get that. Actually, separate that. I completely understand. But I think that I've seen. And I speak to a mate last night on the phone, and he's at West Brom. Lee Garlick, he can be tagged in as well.
He's getting tagged.
The sacrifices that he's been making recently, and they're silly things like, I'm not talking about term for him, but he's doing loads of like COVID testing for them because his age group can't coach them in it, even though they're Cat 1. But the stuff he's doing and the stuff he's doing at home that's not being seen. So I think it works across the board. That essentially what you put in, you're gonna get.
Yeah, what I was trying to say was, though, in the women's game, it is 10 times harder. Like the men's game, at certain levels, it's really hard. But in the women's game, even at the level that you guys have been at, or Carl's at now, it is even that little bit harder sometimes because you don't get as much back in. If you're doing a men's game, you're probably getting a little bit more back in. Socially.
Yeah, but I think the time-wise, I think if you want to spend time, like I say, Lee last night, he's done a quiz, so it's and that's a Cat 1 boys academy, so it's no different to like you doing some of the girls or me doing a Zoom with Enfield like for an hour on Wednesday. So I think it's the time that you put into it, you get back out, and if you feel passionate about it, and regardless of boys, girls, men or women's game, like it's the game.
It's the game,
it's just the game. I think you just whatever you put in, like. If I want to go and watch players to look at Sussex, then you'd go out there, wouldn't you, on a Saturday morning or a Sunday.
Sussex jacket.
You've got a Sussex jacket. I've
never seen his Sussex jacket.
No, I did I? Because I went to those games, didn't I? Because I went to the pre-season games, didn't I?
I went to watch them.
Because I went to a couple of pre-season games. Because I remember.
From what you've just said there about the game's the game, women, female, that's fine. I understand that. So we touched on it last week, and I'm going to retouch on it because it was something that came up last night that I saw with a female-only UEFA B. UEFA B. So we spoke about this last week with Lucia and Sean, and there was like entry level, and I agree with entry level. Look, one's if you're getting into it and you're not too sure, I agree. Yes, do female only. Level 2, maybe, and even then I'm not keen on it because I feel like you're going to be going into a game with males anyway, so you integrate early and maybe split it. But doing a female-only UEFA B, one, are you going to get enough females on the course like you just said with yours? They struggle to get are you going to get enough females on? And if you are they just being fast tracked because they're female, or are they actually on the course because they've got to that level where they need to get on it? There's so many things around it. It doesn't sit right with me, and I'm an advocate for the women's game, but I feel that it should be UEFA B is UEFA B. We're not trying. It's like they're trying to separate the games and make it a women's game and a girls' game, whereas it's one game, one course. And even Sean said it last time, and you can clip it and bring it up, where she said it's one game. Like, we don't have a women's only and a male's only, but actually, it looked last night from what I saw, it looks like we do. We have a female only and a...
Right, let's try and be as non-controversial as possible.
Look, I said last week,
I got 1,500 followers on Twitter, and that's big. It's bigger. But trust me, I said something the other day on Twitter, and I was expecting people to follow me because I said about Liverpool won the league last year because of COVID. Tongue in cheek is the way Karen Carney disrespected Leeds United. We won it because of COVID. Man, we won that league because we were the best team in 46 games. Let's get real. We won the league by 10 points. That was just a tongue in cheek thing. So I'm expecting to be on about 1,000. That's your level by the end.
I said last week though that like we've got to, and Lucia says it. I just want to be seen as a coach. Yeah. We've got to cut this out of female male, and we've got to say, look, it's all inclusive, and you can't just have female. I'm sorry, but it's like saying, oh, it's male only. You've got if you want equality, it's got to be across the board, and you've got to do it with men, and you've got to do it with women, and then
I think there's two sides to it.
Yeah,
this is going to be about as controversial as I could possibly get.
It's
but
difficult
I think,
not to be.
No, but I think so. There's two ways you either look at it, right? I spoke about it earlier, like. And I'm not, this is not a thing, but like me doing my A licence will cost me just as much as it should do, and that should be across the board. It doesn't matter the background you're from. You should have to pay £5,000, whatever it is, for your A licence. That should just be it.
Yes.
When you start to segregate it all, then you unknowingly create that divide. And I think with the female only coaching badges, I'm cool with whatever. Like I'll so actually put it out there, I genuinely could not care less if you are male, female, black, Asian, disabled. I couldn't care less.
All on the same course.
Just coach. That's what we all do, don't we?
No one cares.
I generally don't care. I've got no problems with if you're the best coach in the world or the worst coach in the world. I will work with whatever and whoever. I'm not precious, but I think two sides to it. Either the divide is being created. This is a controversial bit. The divide potentially is being created because people are crying wolf that there's not enough females in the game, not enough BAME coaches in the game, and then that divide's get created because they're highlighting it potentially, and then that creates a divide because all of a sudden the people who are in the game go, well, hold on a minute, like, what's your problem? And it's like, well, actually, there's not a problem there to start with. Unfortunately, historically, the way the football has been ran the way it's been ran, regardless of who's involved and who's not. We always talk about the people that are on boards, and they're all like, they're all old men and blah blah. It's like, well, okay, but without them, the game wouldn't be where it is now. So let's actually, and I talk about all the time that the game's where it is because of them people. So then, but then the game needs to evolve and change because that's what it's always doing.
It needs to evolve and change.
Look at Barcelona. Yeah, Cruyff started it in the 70s, but it's come to fruition now in the kind of 2000s, and he built that over a dynasty. And you think it's evolving, but rather than chastise the people that have got the game to where it is, why don't we celebrate the fact that they've got the game to this point? The game itself in general. The Premier League, the men's Premier League is the best league in the world, right? So whoever's been behind all of that from 20, 30 years ago, and when the Premier League started in the 90s, 1993, whenever it was, like they're behind that, they've got to that point. So let's celebrate that it's got to that point, and then let's be part of the evolution that changed it to get it to the next level. Female game. Like I said, the biggest crowds ever get is an FA Cup final day, back in the day, and that's when everybody went, all the centre excellences went. Whoever's been behind it, good and bad, has brought the game to this level where you can afford to get players, and I don't know what players get paid, but I can imagine it's the highest they've ever been paid in the game. Like, they've had probably the most exposure in the game, they've had the biggest sponsorship in the game, but yet we still say something like negative about it, that it's not where it should be, blah blah. But actually, reality is, you ain't going to change that quickly. Like, and I think people rather than berate the people that have got the game to that point and berate the fact that wherever the male game is, let's just celebrate where we're at and let's be thankful where we're at, and let's now be part of the evolution of change to drive it forward. Do it positively.
You've touched it. It's the evolution. I don't disagree with what you've just said there. Do I think BAM's underrepresented? Yes. Do I think females are underrepresented? Yes. Are they there? Yes. I think that's the issue. And I think that's where we lose it is that because they're underrepresented, and I think what you just said, the people that helped have obviously got the game to a certain point. Have they evolved? Probably not. Do they need to? Yes. When is that going to happen? God knows. But I think you don't create that divide. Like the BAM stuff at the moment, it's not a BAM course. I haven't seen it. If there is, I might be wrong. I might just be. But I haven't seen a BAM course that's specifically just for BAM. I've seen that they help you with funding X, Y, Z.
Do you know what? It's frustrating the last couple of weeks. I've seen a couple of job adverts. I get it because there's an under what's the word? There's an underrepresentation of like females or whatever it may be, or BME people. Like, and I get that. They've created job roles for that. There was a West Ham job that came out last week, and I see it, and it was like a female only thing. Yeah. And you're like, and I'm fully behind it because I want to give anybody and anyone the opportunity, but then I personally don't feel that you need to advertise that. Yeah. Like, obviously, employment law would be something they've obviously got the tick from saying it's okay to do that. It's like discrimination. I'm not going to mention club, but I mentioned the club within my conversations. One of the clubs out there is like we kind of want female coaches only. Yeah. And you're like, it's like, I get it, I completely get it because you want to do it, but I don't get why you would essentially advertise to that level of what you want. Why don't you just advertise a job role, and then people will apply if they perceive they have got the qualifications, and then select who you want to select. Select the best person. Like, look, jokes aside, and we'll talk about Sussex. Yeah. So the year before you came, and I know it's not talking rudely of them, I applied for the Sussex manager's job the year before you got it, and I wasn't really precious about it. I've never really managed a team like in senior level, or whatever. And I thought I'll give it a go, and it was after I left Brighton, whatever. And they gave it to a female coach. The female coach had been in the game for like 10 years or something like that. And if she was the best person in their personal opinion of it, and the best person, let's do the best person, not the best female, nothing, the best person for it, then fair play. Having experienced that season. Like,
you still part of the staff, wasn't you?
Yeah. They asked me to come in as an assistant coach. And I was like, wicked, cool. I think they texted me for like, I've got this job. I was well happy. Do you know what makes it really bother me? I'm not that type of person. But like, then working with her, it was just like, you've not become part of that 10-year process of where the game's come from to where it is at. So 10 years in the female game, let's separate them. It's because it was the female coach thing. Like. Yeah. Where it'd come from, she'd missed that 10 years. Yeah. Whereas I'd been part of it, and you were like, actually, the players are different. Yeah. The setups are different. And it was like, and it was weird because, I could throw out if I really wanted to, it'd be really controversial. So she only got it because she was female. If I really wanted to say that. Yeah. But actually, I didn't care how she got the job. I wasn't precious about how she got it. I was like, if you're the best person, you're better than me, then go for it, knock yourself out. But if I'm working with you, let's work together because, like you've alluded to from the start, a lot of the stuff I do, and it's been made up recently with a few people I speak to the game, I don't say huge amount, but then when I do say it to you, I don't want to give you the answers because I haven't got the answers. I've never got the answer to football. I've never met anyone who's got it. And all I do is I drop something in to expand your mind, and you take whatever you've seen to the level you take it at, because it's you who's got to deliver that coaching point, that tactical information, that team talk, whatever it's got to be. That's for you to do it. But if I can plant a seed, you then grow that whatever that thought process is.
And do you know you're really good at that, and we'll touch on Sussex now. We'll obviously, as we
stop separating men and female games.
Yeah, stop separating.
Coaching course to coaching course. Just go on it.
Because what are you then going to start incorporating in the female course that might not be incorporated in the male's course, or it's not even the male's course. That's what I just done. Yeah. I had to call it the male's course. Because it's the female.
I think you're right. Just finishing. I do think you're right in entry level. Depending on the age of some of the people that would go onto a course. Some people might feel intimidated to go on a course.
So entry level, that's fine.
Yeah, I'm cool. I'm cool with whatever, because at the end of the day, like in all of it, I said to you earlier about the way that the season will finish. Essentially, yes, you can hear my voice and I can say my opinion, but am I in a position to change any of that? No. So until I am, then just carry on, do whatever you're gonna do. Like, and if it creates the female game, let's separate it again. But if it creates the female games better, then knock yourself out and carry on.
Yeah. No,
and if you learn from it and it does work, then brilliant. If it doesn't, then you change it, whatever you've got to do. But just, I think, try whatever you need to try and just get on with it and stop worrying about that and actually worry about what's on the
I think
grass.
sometimes there's a stigma attached though, isn't there? Like it's like saying that like you said before, the Premier League is the best product, right? But then you have the Championship, and I would say the Championship is equally better than the Scottish League. Yeah. And sometimes the women's game gets branded in, well, it's the women's game, and again, it's not to sound wrong, but a lot of people work with women, and I can tell you now, there's some women out there that are better than ballers in the Championship, or better than.
They might not physically, like, I will physically not, but technically and tactical understanding.
Tactical understanding, they're better. And there's some, again, just from working in the women's game recently, there's some girls that you have, or we have, or however you say it, at Charlton, that I would look at and go, for their age group, they're better than most boys' teams that I know. And sometimes you've got to get rid of that stigma that it's the women's game. Like you keep saying, it's football, and you've got to appreciate it for what it is. But sometimes, some levels of football though do just find their level. You can't say that the Northern Irish League is better than the Premier League at all, because the quality, the quality of players they got there. Yeah. But what we're trying to get at in the women's game, especially in like the women's English game, is the more better players they attract, why can't it be as good as?
Man, it's the best point it's ever been, and
it's going to get better.
I think that's my frustration with it. It's the best place it's probably ever been. Like, not been involved in it, but seeing it from the outsider's perspective, it's probably the best place it's ever been. But yeah, it's probably got the most annoyance and controversy out there that there's still not enough. And you're like, well, actually, like it's that whole thing. Is what is actually enough though? What sit down and go to people actually. What more do you want? The game's the best. It's the best it's ever been. It's probably the most professional it's ever been. They've been paid the most they've ever been paid. They've got one of the biggest sponsorship deals they've ever had. But yet people still want more. And I get that, but there comes a time where you've got to be like, well, actually, wait a minute, like.
The game,
it's got to sometimes it's got to take a time, but people don't want to wait because we're impatient.
Can I ask you your thoughts are on the American women being paid exactly the same as the men?
Fair play. If that's what they can afford to do, they knock themselves out. Like that's what I'm saying. Until you're at that point where you can be part of that selection process.
Do you think? No, this isn't like me being like. I think the USA women's team is better than the men's, but the men's team is more. It's still growing.
I think.
Do you think that they should have been paid more from the start because they were better?
With the Globe Panel Arena, I think if you can financially, because it's a business. Let's be straight, it's a business, and if it's not viable and it costs you money, you wouldn't essentially run something that costs you money because you'd be bankrupt eventually.
Most football teams are running out.
So, but I think if you can afford to do it, then that becomes acceptable to do it, because not only because what you would have done, you'd have budgeted to go, right, we can afford to pay England men's team this amount of money, England women's team this amount of money. And then when you go, well, actually, wait a minute, let's look for equality and let's get them exactly the same, which is absolutely valid. It's a valid point. But if you've got £20 million coming in, and your £20 million budget's paying the men 15, the women 5, then you say, right, I want to pay them the same. Well, you either say to them, we're going to deduct your money and we'll pay you £10 million each because we can't go above 20 million until we find that money. And if you find another 10 million quid or whatever it is, yeah, wicked,
but
not
for
a
a long
problem.
time,
You get paid the same.
But for a long time, the women's USA team were, and they still are, better than the men's. So why would they be paid less?
I'll throw it back to you. How do you know they're better? They played against
They've won World Cups.
Have they played against each
But
other?
it's not. It's not.
so
But it's not. It's you can't.
I mean, let's just straight right. I'm better than you two, because if you look at I've hit the crossbar 3 times. You hit none.
That's just on today, though. That's just based on today. Yeah. Like, if we was to do this 10 times out, but like the women's USA have won multiple championships, and they've and they can't go to the next. They're at the best level they can be at. So for a long time, shouldn't they have been paid better than the men?
I just look at it, putting my business hat on. I just think if is it affordability, and if it's affordability, then we need to address that. Is it actually equality? Probably not. Is it affordability? Potentially, but then I'll throw it back and go, it might be equality. Do you know what I mean?
I think
we're in a country of decades of it being this way, aren't we? Let's be honest. Come on, like
I go back to that question you were saying earlier. Like, we don't evolve quick enough. Like, we've evolved very quickly during this pandemic. Sport needs to play, so look, we need to be quick. So if we're going to do that for the women's game, why don't we quickly put those things into place? And do you know what? You only learn by failing.
I think what you've touched on is when you said, look, it's the best it's been for a very long time, and it is getting better. When does it peak? We don't know, but we're 50 years behind. The game is where the men's game was how many years ago. So
like
you've got to understand that there is a time, and it will get better. It might not happen over. And do you know what? It might be the players that are playing now don't see that change.
Yeah.
They'll play what they're at now for the next however until they retire, and it's the up and coming. It's that 6-year-old
I'd
now
love
that might see a
I'd love
change.
to sit there and ask someone like, let's just talk Kelly Smith, which is like one of the best players in her era, or Rachel Yankee. What did they get paid like then to what a player gets paid now?
Yeah.
And then go, look at that difference in let's just talk pay, what difference in that is in just alone.
But you could just say,
let alone like what they train, like to what they train now, what they have available, like all the training facilities they get now. And you just think to yourself, it's tenfold, but yet they were the best players of their generation.
Yeah.
They're like the golden generation, weren't they? And then now it's evolving and moving on. And I think it's just, is it time? Yes. Have we got time? A lot of people don't want to have the time. They want it to happen yesterday rather than happen tomorrow.
It's a game that will evolve, and like I said, it might be that 6-year-old girl right now that's not interested in football turns into the best player in the world, and it will.
Mate, I just think it's exciting to be part of it. Like, regardless if you're lucky enough to work in the boys' academies or boys' game grassroots or girls' grassroots or whatever. If you're involved in football in general, just feel blessed, man.
But
that's how I
to filter back, football's football. Like, I don't believe in all these separating of courses. You don't know what the difference, what's going to happen next. They're going to get female-only tutors. Like, it doesn't make sense to me. Like, the game's the game. Put the whole game together, and because as Sean said, and Lucia said last week, we when we're on them courses want to know the experience that the women working in the game are getting. We want to hear it, but if you put them on a course where we can't hear it, we'll never know.
I agree with level 1. You could probably be in a foundation where it's all women because you might be scared at first and it's your first steps on the ladder, but it should be.
But also as well, for a lad to go on a course, well, if you're a 17, 18-year-old lad,
and you hear that experience,
like, and I obviously I deal with college kids, so I see their kind of social interactions. They might feel awkward to be doing a coach course in front of a female, so it works.
Both ways.
It works both ways. But I just think I'm right. I think you're right. I think there's got to be a.
There's got to be a point where the entry level is but the options should be there. At level 1, there should be 3 options. You can mix, you can do your own, or you can do, you can do male or female, or you can mix. Those are the 3 options. Once you get to level 2, they go, right, if you really are serious about coaching, because
it's also, but like, you've got to, at some given point, you've got to expose the coach to what they're going to be exposed to.
That's what I was just saying.
You go to a team, you might have up to, I think it's 16s now, isn't it? You can play, girls can play in a boys' team.
I think they can do it isn't it posted up to under 18s?
Is it? That's what I'm saying. So why don't you expose them to see what you're going to get? They're going to get like kids from all different diverse backgrounds. They're going to have male and females playing in their team, in their football team. Doesn't matter if they're male or female.
No.
So I think expose them at some point.
So let's touch on our time at Sussex.
Wait, has he got a jacket from this?
Should we bring the jacket into the plane?
No.
He's going to get his
put it on.
he's cold.
So you can talk about Sussex whilst you've got it on, mate.
Why don't you bring yours?
Yeah, got his.
Can we not tag Sussex in this? Because I've actually given my jackets away.
Don't tag him. I might want it back.
Okay, too.
Cole loves giving kit back.
But yeah,
Mate, this guy's got kit for days. I was around his house and he's got kit for days.
let's talk about Sussex.
Talking about Sussex?
Yeah.
Oh, mate, you've got a Sussex jacket.
Just for the people who are listening on the podcast, Cole's got a sausage jacket that he never takes off. I bet he sleeps in it.
Is this disclaimer? Do you sleep in that jacket?
I can nor confirm or deny circulation.
Does your missus
jacket.
Does your missus have to wash it, or does she have to rip it
This
from
doesn't
you?
get touched. But yeah, no. Obviously, I worked for that role. I saw it pop up. I saw the season they had and what happened that season. I was like, okay, this is. I backed myself to be able to go in and do something different. Had the interview, got the role. Obviously, they asked about my team. I said, look, I speak to a couple of people. They said, look, we've got these coaches. You had yourself and you had Carly as well, who was in there. I was like, okay, yeah. Well, I spoke to, I'll be honest, I spoke to my mate Greg Cross, who's at Lewis, who done well with me. I was like, do you want to come and do it? And there was things going on, so he couldn't. So then, obviously, myself and Carly were getting involved, and Carly got involved. And I said, yeah, cool. And then we done the whole. The weirdest bit, and I'll be honest, and if they're listening, we didn't really do trials too much. We didn't do much training. Like that's something we tried to implement. I had multiple emails to try and get more training sessions together. It was difficult. Teams didn't want to release players. There was a load of phone calls I was consistently making to try and get the players in. I spoke to yourself. Briefly, I'll be honest, I took a lot of the selection a little bit upon myself, so I selected players, and the final I've done the same thing. I should have probably spoke to you and Carly before making some final decisions the day before, but it is what it is. We don't
just get that on record that he picked the team for that final and lost. That is what he's just said.
You want that as your trailer, as your first clip?
That's what he's just said. I'm glad it's taken him about 3 years.
I'll tell you what, first thing I do when I get home is I'll clip it for you, and you can have that tonight.
No, do you know what? No, I think I was the first to go. You know, I should have spoke to you because I believe I probably made some wrong selections, and I spoke to you after that day. It was too late, but I already said to you, you know what?
Speak deeper into the mic, I'll just say.
Confession time.
I should have.
Are you saying that I've got such a great knowledge and experience that I would have won that final?
I'm saying that your knowledge of the game at that point was far better than mine. You probably got to roll over me. But look,
Didn't get the year before, mate. Plan again.
But look, we won all 3 games. Like we won 7-0, and then obviously I couldn't get to one of the games, and you and Carly took it, and it was probably the hardest game, as you keep telling me, against the Navy, and you won that. And then we come back, and again we beat Jersey as well, and then we got to the final against Middlesex. And unfortunately, injuries hit us. I'm so sure.
Wait a minute, he's gone back now. First was it was his fault for the squad he picked.
Now he's saying I haven't backtracked. I had to change my squad. You know, I want the papers
I wouldn't have
to
known
come
if you
up.
changed the squad because you never spoke to me.
Oh, I've got a group. I've still got this group.
He's got a group chat, no one in it, but
I've still got this group. No, it was. We went to the final and it was a 3-0 loss. Like we had. It was pretty much the same team that took us through all 3 at bar. I think it was 3 players. One of them we called. I did speak to you actually. Yeah, no. hey, hold on. Let me back. He knows what I'm about to say. So who did we get? I think it was the 2. Because I think it was only 2. It was the 2 centre halves that we couldn't get. So we had to replace. We got them 2 in. And because they hadn't been part of the whole campaign, it was probably difficult for them just to come in. Big game. We travelled all the way to Middlesex in a new HQ. And it was probably a little bit, it wouldn't out their depth, I won't say out their depth, but it was a different squad that they hadn't had time to integrate and chat, have a talk with and find out how certain players play. So the way that Tiff might have played at Chichester at the time, she didn't understand how a fullback played or a centre midfielder played or how to play. Did she play from A to B or did she try and play? Yes, we tried to talk and explain how we wanted to do it, but to be part of the process is the main thing, isn't it? To see how it's done 1 game, 2 game, 3 game, going into the final, and then it's a loss of record that I feel
Still hurts you, isn't it?
it does. It probably does. I'm not even gonna lie to you.
What hurt more, the L last week or the L?
That loss, it still hurts you. That loss is
Did
still.
it hurt?
it's
Just
gonna have L today,
15
didn't he?
15 goes across my challenge and 0.
Do you know that?
all I can say about this pod is that he's becoming the worst
The
person.
unorthodox loser. That's it.
Just get
That one wave that he's had on Twitter that boosted him is now making him look so fluky.
But yeah, no.
I'm still waiting for a question about Sussex, mate. I mean, it wasn't all about you.
Well, it's kind of like I haven't really.
Do you want to know what it's like to work for you? Is that what's
I don't know when I asked that one because I don't trust
got
it
2
now.
people sitting
I
here.
don't. No. How was it working with me? To be honest, like,
Come on,
how was I?
dig him out.
I'll tell you about the process to start because he's lied about it all. So basically, he wanted to get me in, and I will find the text messages because it's not a problem. I don't delete
They're going to be popping up.
He says to me, can you check the goalkeepers, right? And if anyone, exactly, right? He's asking, he tries to coach him. He's like, yeah. So you don't even know me, like seriously, goalkeeping, right? If there's any position that I do not give any advice on, that I don't try and coach, that I just shout at if they make a mistake.
TUA for me. What was it?
You're not a Trinidad and Tobago goalkeeping coach. And yeah, I hate goalkeeping with a passion. My Sophie Stonehouse will tell you that about goalkeeping in a minute. She knows I hate goalkeeping. No, that's become the goalkeeping, to be fair. I just like being involved, and it couldn't have been any worse than what it was the year before with Sussex, when getting questioned about giving a girl a coaching point at half time and asking her to run the coaching point past her. Whereas I think if you're going to have that relationship, you've got to have that trust in that whatever coaching point that person's going to come up with, there's a reason behind it, and 9 times out of 10 you're on the same hymn sheet. But no, it's all right, to be fair. Like, it was good because I've not done anything until this season, which is a worse season to go back involved in. But like, I've done nothing for like 4 years. I scratched around and worked for Russell Martin Academy, which is fantastic, which is a great thing at the minute. It's going. They've just got a new ground, which is great.
Southwick place,
just got it now, which is really, really good for them. And they were really good to work for, and just little bits and bobs. But getting involved with Sussex just kept me kind of foot in the door of stuff. And I think working was good because, like, obviously I knew a different calibre of player to what you would know. Like, you would know a lot more of the youth players, and I'd know more of the other players. And trying to get nick a couple of the old players that I know from Brighton to try and get in. And
I remember that.
Do you know what I mean? Like a Charlie Boswell or something like that, trying to get her involved. And it was good because fantastic player. But it was good because it was nice, and we had that whole thing. And like I said, touchline experiences were nice and simple because I'd see stuff and then I'd just have a little whisper in your ear, and then like. Jokes aside, the Navy game, I was a completely different animal because when it's yours,
it's different.
It's just constant.
It's got feedback
and I'm not. I mean, the person that I was coaching against that day might listen to this podcast. I ain't going to mention their name, but it's good to beat them as well because of stuff that had gone on in the past. And it was good to get one over on them as well. So it's like a personal thing as well. But yeah, no, it was good just to be involved. And I think the final was just a random thing that they decided to put together, wasn't it? And really randomly. One of my players, Charisse at Enfield, played in that game and sent me a picture the other day of that game we lost. But I think it was just that day. I think the game got put together very last minute, and that's the problem with the investment into something like a county league, a county setup. It's in general, it's very, very light touch work, and I think if you don't train or you don't do this, and it's not that. Again, what you put in, you're going to get out. If you put no training, you put no structure of a match day squad in, you're going to get out whatever.
I've still not heard what it's like to work for Carl.
What is it like to work for Carl?
The first time, I got involved with the keepers, but it was very soon after I realised.
I took the keepers for the first game, and I gave it to Carly. I was like, I can't kick the ball straight. My tech is
have you seen how I can't kick the ball straight? We was complaining about that.
Very much changed, and to be fair.
No, I think it was good because we all just in the gate, same thing with Brighton. Like, everyone had so many different things. I suppose a bunch of misfits at Brighton because every member of staff had something different to bring to the table. And even the smaller team with 3 people, like, you all have something different to bring to the table.
It's always good to have no one having the same beliefs or to push each other and challenge.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it was good to. It generally was like, very side, like, I give you quite a lot of banter to your face and behind your back a bit to because you made me laugh quite a lot with your Unorthodox coach, but we can touch that if you want. But you're waiting for it.
He's sitting his head down. I'm trying to think about.
I think it was just good in general because you gave me an opportunity where. We didn't know me, this kind of thing, and that's in any walk of football. Yeah. Like, you're giving somebody an opportunity that you either don't know, or hasn't got the experience, or has got loads of experience, or whatever. You're entrusting that's going to work because it's a relationship you need to build. So even over 3-4 games, whatever, constant conversations and watching games and that. But I think it was just good just to be involved, and I didn't do too much in the second year just because of my personal circumstances. But like,
let's not talk about the second year.
It's I wasn't there. It's a running theme, mate. You don't involve me in the selection of the games, you lose. You don't really involve me in the second year because of certain things, you lose. Like, I don't know if you want to add 2 and 2 together and come up with.
No, because this year, we've been undefeated.
You know that. Trust me. Don't try and get.
I think.
Sorry, because now Ant's gone, he might lose.
Yeah. If he has got someone else involved and he doesn't lose, it's just like if he's on his own.
Oh, 100%. I can't do nothing on my own. Any manager that can do things by themselves, I've got so much time.
Me, Ant, and Terry are all there. Just saying.
I think working with you is good. It's good because it's like you get. Again, just in football in general, like football is all about opinions.
Yeah,
it's like no one has ever found the answer to football yet. For me, Pep Guardiola's the closest, but even he loses. So he's not got the answer.
Even when he's winning, he's telling the other team, look, they had a great press, they had this, and I think, like you're saying as well, like everyone sees football differently, and just sometimes, and you said it as well, I think very recently about something we were talking about, is like you were seeing it one way, I saw it another, and you was like, I didn't even think of that. Yeah. And that's great.
That's football. That's what we talk about all the time, isn't it? And I think that's where, like, in Sussex, like, we both had you know, jokes aside, we had different opinions, different players. I'd see him for 5 seconds and go, nah, she's no good. And you'd be like, well, I've worked with her for a year, Hazy. And I'd be like, well, good for you. Like, like, and then I'd go, what about this player? And you'd be like, I'm not too sure. And then they'd produce, and then I'd be like, thank God they produced. Like, because if they didn't, then I'm struggling.
But I think that's where we dropped our ego. We're not egotistical, let's be real, both of us.
Oh,
we know
massive ego, mate. I just don't tell you.
No, but we're both like that. We can act like we've got an ego, but we're not. Like, you can accept when I say something, and you take a pinch of salt. It's not, you said, oh, no, he's it.
Yeah, I think...
And the same with me, you say things and I'll go...
I think I'm very, and everyone knows, very, very opinionated and have my own specific ways.
Yeah.
But also as well, talk about the game evolving. Me as a coach involved, whereas before I'd never listen to anyone.
Yeah.
And I probably subconsciously don't listen to anyone to this day, but actually I take information on board now and I then choose what I want to do. I'm a bit more tactical with it now, and I kind of listen and listen for the sake of listening, not to listen to respond is what they say, don't they? Like, but I listen and take it all on board and then decide from that.
Yeah.
And I might nick your idea. And it comes to when I talk about sessions, and like, do you know what I mean? I'll watch one of your sessions and you'll be like, oh, best session in the world, and I'll watch it, and if I copy it bit by bit, then it ain't going to be mine. It's going to be yours, but in my way. But actually, if I can interpret it differently and coach something differently, then it becomes mine. So I'll watch sessions, I'll nick sessions off everyone. And if you're out there, I've got more football club sessions than anyone has in the entire world. And I'm in breach of copyright on every single club. But the sessions, I'll watch it and I'll nick it, whatever I can, and I'll change it to what I want, because then it becomes mine. So like, listen to your ideas, I'll listen to the ideas when I worked with you, and then I'll make them my own in a certain way, and that's where I think I've become better at it. Still not as good as what I should
I won
be.
the second game against Navy, he just took my ideas.
Well, apparently next week there's a different podcast coming out, and Lee's asked me to do it. He's going to do it better.
It's going to be the actual Unorthodox coach. the official.
But no, I think working with I enjoyed it. Like, you know, it's only 3 games, and you know, it was what, 2 if you ended up one of them. But it was good. It was good because you got to then see someone else in football. Like, I mean, you say it's like someone new in football. Like, and you should never ever, like, jokes aside about any situation you've ever been into. Like, I'll have a fight in an empty room, but like, you don't burn your bridges to that point, because I just don't want to be that person anymore. And I've worked a lot on myself in the last year to not be that person. Just because I would generally fall out of you if you drank your Coke with your left hand rather than your right hand. It was stupid stuff like that. Ridiculous. But now I've learned to be like.
Are you left-footed or right-footed? Because we just don't know after school.
That's fine. I'll stick to that.
But no, I think it's.
I've got neither foot at the minute.
No, you've never been a footballer. I think it's
those that can't do coach.
Those that can't coach,
that's my mantra.
And those that can't coach, manage, and everyone else do it.
Straight on.
But no, I think it was good. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the season. It was good, and you know, winning them games, especially having experienced the year before.
Yeah.
Like having been questioned as a coach, which is good, but not in the right way. I think if you're questioning the correct way and you're challenging the correct way as a coach, I think it's good, and I think that's where sometimes you don't just say anything and there's a challenge.
I think it got this year. I know you weren't involved this year, and neither was we, and somehow Kent got to the final, even though they lost their last game. Had we have won ours, we would have
Who
won the
worries
bubble.
about all this stuff, mate? Like, when you're not involved in it and you're not involved in the process of deciding that, don't have
I think it's a bit upsetting this year, because like, I think we'd have had one more good run of it. I think we'd have done well. But even you saw, like, even when I put in the group, the things I was doing a little bit different this year. With the
Wait, did you say you worked for Ken?
No, I worked for Sussex.
Oh, I was going to say. Did they not give you a jacket?
Ken gets I'll take the jacket. Everyone's mad. But yeah, I think the things you saw that kind of I adjusted this year to make it better. That wasn't just for us. Players had their own copy of that as well.
Yeah.
I think it would have been so good.
Mate, talk about the little things you do.
Yeah.
I'm doing a player pack at the minute.
Yeah.
Nothing, and I joked because we played a game earlier in the season. I don't mind saying it. Somebody sent us something. A team wrote up about our team, 3 or 4 pages long, and we beat them 3-1. So no matter how much time you waste putting stuff together, the players and yourselves have still got to then produce on the pitch. But like, we put a player pack together, and somebody actually said to me whilst I was putting it together, like, what if the opposition see your set pieces? And I was like, I genuinely couldn't care less.
No.
Because if you can get a player in the middle of the game to remember exactly how we're going to attack that corner, when we probably don't remember ourselves how we're going to attack it, you're never going to get it. So
the best players in the world do the same things over and over. Harry Kane, fox in a box. Yeah. We all know he's a fox in a box.
Yeah.
Why does he always be in the box?
Exactly. So if that's what I'm saying. So
Ronaldo.
We get engulfed. It's pretty good for Tom, but we get engulfed in so much about the opposition
That's it.
that we
Just
actually
okay.
forget about ourselves and our team. Like,
That's something.
and that's where, you know, like I said, the little things you've done, like that little player pack you did. Again, an idea comes to my head, and using what I've known over all the time to think, what can I put together? So, you know, we'll let the players know on a Saturday who's in the starting 11 now, and who's on a bench, and then the set pieces about the night before. I don't really care who's in set pieces. I'll send them to the opposition if they want them. Like rather than get them off someone else, I'll go, here you go, you can have them. Like, it doesn't bother me because in a moment.
We focus on ourselves, and I'm very big on it. We focus on what we do. I don't care what they do. Like when we rock up at a game, if my players was to start looking at the opposition, I'd be like, why are you looking at it? Why do you even care?
So this year, been in for right. Should I tell you the only time I've worried about the opposition? Wimbledon, first game of the season, first time in 4 years of managing and coaching a game. I knew they'd play a diamond formation. So as we all do, we'll get footage off other people. That's the way the world works. We'll share if you share it, whatever, don't care. And to be fair, I watched the game they played against the team, and I was like, right, play a diamond. And we struggled against Fulham in pre-season. We beat Fulham 5-0, but I thought Fulham were very, very good in the first half, played diamond. It caused a lot of problems. And we actually just sat back and didn't press because it was so difficult to explain what they had to do. Anyway, second half, they changed formation and then we kind of beat them convincingly, but they were very, very good. I worried about Wimbledon in the first game of the season. Now, no disrespect to Wimbledon at all. They beat us 3-2 that day, 96th minute winner. Mistake by our centre-half and our goalkeeper. 96th. Yeah, first game back after that, and it was in the sunshine. It had been ginger, it was game over, so it was just a whole accolade of things, and I lost my temper on the sidelines because the sun went to my head. But it's probably two individual mistakes cost us a goal, and the way I ask us to play. So I say, if you're a 4 and the centre half steps out and drives out, can the 4 sit in the centre half? So if you go out, can you be replaced? And we didn't do that in one position. So 3 of the goals were all our own fault, essentially. Good finishes from Wimbledon, fair play to them, and you know they played their part in winning the game. But I worried about them in the kind of build up to the game. That's the only time I worried. And arrogantly, only game we lost this year out of 9 games.
And you obviously worried about coming up against my children.
I couldn't care less, mate.
Why do you keep saying his and I'm part of it? This is
I think it's an hour.
no, he said my shoulder, like I'm not part of this.
If you rewind, I think he said hour.
Even Ant's listening now and he's going to be messaging him like, it's your team, yeah? What?
Ant's lucky I ain't removed him from the group yet.
Straight, Ant, saying you're a traitor, bro.
And now, no disrespect to any teams within our league at all, and I don't mean any disrespect at all. And I have always cared about what we do. Because if we get what we, if like I talked about earlier, if we make the best decisions more consistently, we're going to be better. So I literally focus on just us. And yeah, I'll know about X player here or X player there. Like when we played in the FA Cup against hashtag, I knew about a few of their players. And unfortunately, just weren't their day. We beat them 2-0, and quite honestly, and I said in my interview, they deserved more out of the game. But I hate when people say, "Oh, that won the game." The game's a 2-0 win for us. As simple as that. They did deserve something out of the game, but they didn't get anything out of it, and that was because of whatever happened in the game. They had better chances, like their video footage. If you watch it, and I'll send you that, it looks like they should have been about 12-0. But like, you wouldn't have thought we won 2-0, but our goals were good. But I knew about their players. But then when you got to the ground, the player that I was thinking about that would start was on the bench injured. So you kind of go. So if you do think about it, you're like game over.
Take your chances, and that's it. You know?
I think, especially at like your level's a little bit different because you're first team, but especially at CS level, we can't think about the opposition because one, we probably other teams, other DSs don't have footage, so it's very difficult to get hold of it. Two, the players change like the wind. So
especially with your squad, you got about 40 in your squad.
I've got 25
he doesn't go past 30
players. But yeah, no, it always changes. Like you said, players will be on the bench. You don't know, you can't anticipate that. I've always believed just focus on what we do, focus on ourselves, do the best we can do, and we'll come out there with the match the way we want it to come. Like when we drew against Lewis, I was livid because I look back at it and I've said it to the girls, because we had a brief discussion, we spoke about things, and we was taking about 60 shots a game. Statistically, it was there. I had all the stats. And then it was like, we need to keep the ball more. So I tried to change it to keep the ball more, which we've done. And we had better possession, we had less shots and more on target. Had we taken our 60 shots, we've definitely got enough goal. We would have won that game 2-1.
But I think it comes down to what you're changing. The small things change everything. So he was saying, because they said it during the week to the build-up, we want to, we're taking 60 shots a game. We want to know how to break teams down more. And me, you, and and TJ and Uchi were all talking about it during the week. Were saying we shouldn't change what we're doing, but they want change. So it's sort of like a pulling against each other now because the players are going, well, we're winning, but we do want to win more better. But we're saying, no.
How do you win better? That's my question. How do you win better? Winning's winning, no?
That's brutal, mate. I would take a 1-0 win with a toe punt.
Right, Jose.
No, but it's
Yeah,
winning's
100%.
winning is winning.
If you're in that environment,
You win.
I think it's so difficult because you have to have your philosophy, you have to have your principles, you have to have your kind of how you perceive the game you want it to be. But the reality is, if I want to get Enfield Town up the leagues, or we, because I'm not just not like you, it's we.
Oh, I just killed him.
It's me and the guys that run it. I think if we need to get out of that league, then we need to win the league. So to win, how's that going to look? And I know, like last year, and I don't want to say it, they beat Ipswich last year, probably beat 2-0. I think it was like, apparently, from what I understand, it was a proper like crash it game.
Yeah.
When they won 2-0, Ipswich are probably one of the best teams
100%. They've got league
around. You know what I mean? They've been Southampton in opposite leagues and one two of the best teams in the tier 4 of a women's game. But if you can turn a team like that over, the way that they've got their principles of play and they play, then you've knocked them, haven't you? Do you know what I mean? So winning, we talked about it on the Astrolite. I don't care how.
Winning's winning.
So I've got my philosophies the way I want to play. I have that.
Emma Hayes
and I hate going away from it. But if you've got to win, you've got to win it.
You've got to be able to adjust. The game's ever changing.
We had it at Brighton, right? So we had a way of playing at Brighton, and then we got beat by QPR. We had 15 games unbeaten. We went to QPR, bottom of the league. We changed formation. Thought we were right. Played out one of our best players as a wide forward because she's rapid. And we lost 2-1. So from that day onwards, we got stuff said to us that day. But like after that, we were like, right, that's our formation. That's the way we play. We got to come back with plan A, B, C, and potentially D if we need it. And the players will understand that. So then you got to articulate what plan A looks like. It might be you play through, play round, go long. Let them have the ball and defend. Like whatever it needs to be. Yeah. You just got to do it.
So let's go back to the challenge today. Carl's now got his head down.
Do you know what?
Can I just say?
Right?
After last week, right? I got a message from Carl in the week. I'm going to take it so serious from now on.
No. I'll get that message up. That message said I need to take challenges more seriously.
It's the same thing.
It's not the same thing. Because me saying I will and me saying I need to, it's still there's a hint of me being
lazy.
I used my left and my right.
He's looking away.
That's my left foot for my second go.
Sharp.
Obviously, you already alluded that you've won. But we don't know.
Sorry, what? I didn't say.
Oh, you won, mate.
Cool. Just make sure, because obviously the people who won, because
you won, bro.
But who's you?
Say his name. He won. But anyone watch this on YouTube, he won. But we're obviously going to cut to the footage after this. Hayes.
I have won 2 things in my life. I won a beanie out the other week of Tato Chris in Northern Ireland, banging by the way, and I won out there. I'm winning at life right now.
He came in this morning with all those, my groin, my hernia, and age. The oldest one. Do you know what? This is the first week. I know we've only done this 3 weeks now, but even everything that I do, I'm the oldest one normally. So. Thanks.
No, do you know?
They say former's temporary class is permanent.
So we went outside. Usually I'd get the guests to set up a drill like we did with Richie and Sean, but someone was injured, so I had to just pick it out of the air and go, you know what, good coaches can coach on the spot, crossbar. So,
Carl, can you just tell everyone how many you got?
I hit them all where I wanted to hit. I hit exactly what I wanted.
So for anyone that wants to see it, go onto YouTube, put it up. You're going to see how desperately bad Carl was, and apparently I've got bad form.
His techniques are atrocious, mate.
Watch it.
Do you know what? No, for years, everyone says that I've got poor technique, but to be honest, I've never really cared. Like you, I've never been the greatest footballer. I just love the game.
Whoa.
How many times today has he said he's not the greatest footballer?
Yeah, it's because I'm being modest. Hey, some of the goals I scored in my day, you chat to
So, did you have video cameras back then, or was it rolling?
Do you know what? Somewhere I've got a CD of one of my goals on.
CD? Which was they take.
Mate, come on.
But anyone watching.
Cup
For
final.
anyone watching this under 30, a CD is that the real little round disc that we used to put in, and you can put it on CD-ROM.
I was called Fat Zavvy for a long while.
He lost a lot of weight, to be fair. I know Fat Zavvy.
Carl said earlier he might have gone for a jog. He was saying a jog, but I thought jog, and I was literally looked at him. But yeah, anyway, that's getting cut. That was getting cut. But no, well done today for coming down, Lee. It was fantastic to finally meet you.
Thanks for coming on, man.
I'm gonna let Carl do the outro because it's Carl's podcast.
Yeah, no.
Even though he cried that he wouldn't do the what we would do for the drills.
Thanks for coming on. It's been.
Can I just say something very quickly though? You never answered how many times you hit the crossbar, and we had 15 goals each, right? But you yourself, I think you got to about 18 or 19. How many times you hit the crossbar?
That 1 hour later.
See me.
Did you say zero?
See the thing,
Did you say zero or see me?
See the thing with playing, yeah. I've got certain boots that I wear, but them boots are at home. I couldn't drive home to get the boots, so I had to get the boots out of my boot and use them boots. And it just didn't run.
Just to touch on this earlier, yeah, like a couple of weeks ago, I took him to grass. And what was you saying then?
I'm a luxury guy. I can't play on grass. Let me grass.
Was you slipping away with base?
Did I
not score a free kick before you? Like, you didn't even score a free kick. That's what I scored a free kick.
I think you should
Not
change.
a lot of video footage.
Can we just talk about the unorthodox coach very
Can I
quickly?
slide tackle you now?
Mate, the way I take them to DMs, mate, I'll be alright. They talk about the unorthodox coach very quickly. Promote yourself, mate.
What do you promote myself?
I think you should rename it because I don't think you're unorthodox. I think every coach is different, by the way. That's my opinion, by the way. That's my broad opinion. You're not unorthodox. I think you should put in there that you're a prima donna coach. Because the way you're talking about, I need this, I need
That's
this,
the
I did this, I did
That's
this.
the title for Lee's one is Prima Donna Coach.
No, because that's getting cut as well.
Nothing's getting cut. Nothing's getting cut. Stop telling people things are
Don't
getting
put
cut.
things out that I don't want out, otherwise this ain't mad no more.
So yeah, unorthodox is just to let you know, mate.
Do you know what? I agree, but it's just catchy, innit? I agree. I said it.
Mate, if you wear that jacket anymore, you can probably sell it for some decent money. And they could probably fund you for your
I'm having that in the pod. Right, so that's been unorthodox today. Thank you to Lee.
Thank you.
Thanks, mate.
Carl, you can do better in the next challenge, right?
I'll consider it. Look, you're gonna get fun with me all the time. I'm gonna try. You're lucky. I'm actually disappointed I didn't try the outside of the boot. Look, I lost.
To be fair, mate, you can still go out there now. Just let us know. Just let us know
Okay.
at some point today. Let us know at some point today when you actually hit the crossbar. I mean, we've got lights out there and everything.
Look, guys, head over to YouTube. Look at the challenge. It was a bit of fun and it's been great. This has been Unorthodox. Think outside the box. Thank you. Okay, so for today's challenge on the Unorthodox podcast, we're just going to do crossbar. 5 shots. Hit the crossbar. Most hit them in 15 shots wins. Let's see what happens.
Come back to the strike how you get worried there. Look around.
That's his practices. That's his practices. After last week,
centre half, mate. I can see that. Can't claim if it comes back there. Can't claim it there. One more. Yeah. All you got to think of, mate, is you are losing.
I know, that's why more pressure.
All them people who've flagged the lid on one of these coaches.
Yeah!
I can't wait for you to see this. Get angry,
I know, you can see it. You can see it.
That's your coach.
Oh, man. So, what I've got to say is don't try and do crossbar when your ankle hurts or you've got a hammy or something. It doesn't work.